Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book Study. We're just two sober alcoholics reading, studying, and discussing the Big Book the way Joe and Charlie did back in the day. Let's start with a moment of silence, followed by our friend Loretta Mama Bear is going to read the set-aside prayer for us. Mama Bear?
Mama Bear is still an alcoholic. God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Mama Bear. We appreciate that. So now we all have a completely blank slate, open mind for God to work with. We don't know what a step 6 and a step 7 is. We don't know what a big book is. We're just here to learn as if we've never seen these things before. Thank you. Okay, so and just an FYI, kind of how this podcast started is in 1973. Joe McHugh introduced Charlie P. as the AA speaker at an Al-Anon convention. And Joe and Charlie, they soon discovered they both shared a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So traveling between their homes to discuss the big book became a regular event. Well, Clyde and Cousin Jonathan met in the Zoo Crew in 2023, and we discovered that we also share a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So that's how this started. And so we meet here every Sunday from 2 to 3:30 p.m. in this room. And so please have your big book handy to read along with us and take notes and also underline and highlight as we read. So we're going to be studying the big book together. We'll be recording the audio of these meetings to share with others on our podcast. You can find that on our webpage. And the purpose of this big book study meeting is to help you when meeting with a prospect, which is now called sponsee, or talking about sobriety in general, because you want to be armed with the facts about yourself and the AA program. Freedom from alcohol comes through taking the 12 steps and working with others. Page 15 of the 12 and 12 says, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. How soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? We suggest that you purchase a copy of the big book for future use. You will want to underline, highlight, and write notes. Please order your AA literature directly from AA so that the money goes to Alcoholics Anonymous and to ensure that you get a good copy. We are not advocating rushing through the steps. We highly suggest that you have a sense of urgency in taking the 12 steps and having them become a way of life sooner than later. Pretend this is a matter of life and death. Actually, it is a matter of life and death. So once again, how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? You can go to our website at thezoocrew.org to order your copy of the big book as well as read it online. The big book is our basic text and contains the full recipe for recovery. It is impossible to find a loophole in the big book that excludes you from being a member of AA. So, let me do a little house cleaning here. There we go. Excuse me. Okay, so we got a couple more service team members here co-hosted. And so where we're at today, where we left off last week was the bottom of page 75, which is after we've taken our 5th step. So that's where we're at in the book. We're going to begin today on the top of page 76 with step 6. But just kind of want to summarize where exactly we are in the process. So we just finished step 5 is what happened. So that bottom paragraph on page 75 tells us, okay, we just shared our inventory with our sponsor. We had a long discussion, had a long talk, didn't withhold anything, pocketed my pride and really went to it. And so then I was going to go home and find a place where I could be quiet for an hour. Okay, so I'm going to spend, this is the second and only 2 times that we paused during the steps. The first was during the 3rd step before we take that step, because it's a big one, it's significant. So it says we thought well before taking this step. So that was step 3. Now here, the bill tells us that we go home and we be quiet for an hour. And the reason we do that is we carefully review what we've done so far. He tells us, take the big book down, go to page 59 where the 12 steps are listed, and carefully review those first 5 steps and make sure that you have been thorough. Did you do all 5 of those steps completely, thoroughly, sincerely? Make sure you didn't skimp on anything. Make sure everything's properly in place, et cetera, et cetera. So after we've considered that and reviewed that, we go to page 76, top of page 76. And here's what I'm so excited about. These 2 steps are so brief. Step 6 is 1 paragraph at the top of the page. Step 7 is the next paragraph below that. And that's all that's listed here. So on the surface, it almost seems like, gee, maybe these aren't all that important, but nothing could be further from the truth. These are very significant steps. And these happen to be, and I want you to, this is what we're really going to get into and focus. I'm going to highlight, we are going to discuss this together at length, how linked step 3 is with 6 and 7. So step 3 is we made a decision, okay? And step 6 and 7 are the action parts of that decision. These are where the rubber meets the road. Willingness is an action word. Humility is an action word. This is where we take the actions to demonstrate that we really did do the 3rd step. That decision is being implemented through action in these steps. So what we're going to start with is at the top of page 76, we've conducted our complete review. We're satisfied with our first 5 steps. So it says, have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Are the stones properly in place, etc.? So here we go, page 76. If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. So here we go. It says we have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. So let's stop right there. There's 2 key words there. One is willingness. And then that other word, indispensable, where have I heard that before? Okay. And I'll tell you where I heard it before. I heard it 3 times before. 2 times were on page 25 and 26 in chapter 2. There is a solution. There's an asterisk at the bottom of the page. And then at the bottom of page 47 in chapter 4, we agnostics, there's an asterisk. It says, please refer to appendix 2 for amplification, for further discussion about a spiritual experience. What does that mean? What is that? And so we were referred 3 times to the spiritual experience in the back of the book, page 568. So if you guys want to turn to 567, I think, let me see here. If you want to turn to page, 567 is appendix 2, the spiritual experience. And on page 568, if you read the last paragraph, not the bottom quote from Herbert Spencer, the last paragraph, it says that we find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, see how these are in italics, are the essentials of recovery. And here's that word, but these are indispensable. So he's just repeating that for us, that willingness is indispensable. That means we have to have it. Okay, so Then let's go ahead and continue. It says, are we now ready? That's another word for willing. We're on page 76, back to page 76. Are we now ready, meaning willing, to let God? Okay, so let's stop right there. Let God. That's a key concept here. And again, let God what? So what that means is, remember in the third step, it told us that we had to quit playing God on page 62, and that he, hereafter in this drama of life, we decided he is our director. And then at the top of page 63, it says, when we sincerely took this position. And then at the further down on page 63, it says, will we let God abandon ourselves utterly to him, honestly and humbly? And then in the third step prayer, it says I offer myself to thee. Am I offering myself to him? Am I going to let God to build with me? Am I going to let God? So this is where I'm going to do these things. And it says, are we now ready to let God remove from us? So remember in the third step prayer, we asked him to relieve me of the bondage of self and take away my difficulties. This is where we're going to take the action that demonstrates our willingness to let him do these things, and that we're actually doing that third step. It says, are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? So here we go again. Here's some key information. Admitted are objectionable. That's another way of saying, this is Bill using different words to explain the same thing. Defects of character, shortcomings, faults, wrongs, blame. So this is our defects of character. Are we willing ready to let God take them all? Can he now take them all? Every one. Okay. So, and then it says, if we still cling to something we will not let go, and believe me, there are some things that we don't want to let go typically. And I'll give you an example. We ask God to help us be willing. So if there's any that I'm not willing to let him have, any defects, then I pray for the willingness to let him take them away. So hold on, here I got a message. Okay. So we just covered a lot of stuff, and we're going to really get into this, this action part of this. Step 6, willingness is an action word. So if I'm willing to do something, you're going to see me take some steps and do some things that show that willingness. Just saying it doesn't do anything. I have to back it up with my actions. And so that's what willingness is all about. So let's go ahead and take a break here. Let me reread that paragraph for us, and then we'll get some shares on what we're studying here with this 6th step. So here I'll just read it from the top. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. It says, we have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready, in other words, willing, to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. So we've listed, when we did our 4-step inventory, we did the 4th column on that was where we admitted our faults, listed all our defects of character, our shortcomings, the things that we've admitted are objectionable. And then in the 5th column of that inventory, we listed the assets, the positive assets that we're going to strive for to set matters straight and make living amends and live the life of a recovered alcoholic. So we're going to ask God to remove those defects from the 4th column and replace our attitudes, ideas, emotions, and actions with that 5th column. That's what this is all about. Are we willing to let God remove our defects? So let's have some comments. Does anybody want to share on your willingness to let God remove your defects of character? and I can give you some examples. What my sponsor had me do was list some actions I can take on a regular, consistent basis to demonstrate that I am willing to be relieved of that defective character. So, as an example, if I am having an issue with envy and I feel like other people are got it better than me, I'm kind of stuck in self-pity. Gee, everybody else has a better job and enjoys what they do and make more money and they're happier than me, et cetera, et cetera. That's a defect, self-pity and lack of, you know, uh, it's an unhealthy opinion of myself. It's actually false pride. It's a lack of humility. And um, so the solution for that, the action I can take is to be grateful and enjoy the success of other people and just become, uh, another worker among workers and member of the team and realize that, people aren't any better or any worse than me. And, we're all in this together. And it's just a shift in attitude. And as I start doing that, gradually it becomes the new me, then it becomes God actually takes away the envy from me and replaces it with a sense of well-being and proper sizing for me. And it was just amazing to me how effective it was. It worked. Um, all of a sudden, after doing this for a couple of weeks, just looking at things a little differently with a gratitude mindset, um, God took away the self pity and envy and replaced it with some, proper humility, being right sized and having a good attitude and fitting in and feeling great about myself. So anyway, that's just one example. Another example is like that you might not be willing to be rid of for me would be like I tend to be a little on the I'm not the hardest worker in the world. I'm kind of a I wouldn't say a sloth by any means, but I'm not like a real go-getter, supercharged, go success guy. And I kind of like it that way. And so I've, over the years been a little worried about, well, if I ask God to remove my, somewhat laziness, what if he wants me to work real hard? And I don't want to do that. I like kind of cruising and taking it easy. So that's another example of, not being 100% willing to let God, you know, remove that from me because I like being a little slothy. And what if God doesn't want that for me? It's like, dang, I'm afraid to do this. So, hey, Matt, come on in. We have 90-second shares here, by the way, and Lindsay's going to be our timer. Come on in, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you, Clyde. I'm Matt. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm so glad you brought those examples up because it's really like practical stuff. That's why I need to like keep coming back to this, to the big book and for these big book studies. And it's amazing. I don't know who changed the big book, but I could have sworn the first time I read this through, can he, being God, can they now take them all, everyone? I'm pretty sure the first time I read it, it said, can God now take some of them? Because that's what I was willing to let go was some of my character defects, the more inconvenient ones, the ones that I was already like before, ready, easily identified, and were very inconvenient for me. Um, the longer I spend in sobriety and the more that I work this program, the more I'm realizing, wow, there are actually things that like I thought were assets, but are actually liabilities in my life. And you just named a couple of them for me, right? I will avoid the work that I have to do because the anticipation of that work, I build it up into something so tough. But here's the thing is I don't have to do all that work by myself. Y'all have proven that to me. God has proven that to me over and over again. I have to bring my willingness and put it into action. And then the results are far greater than anything I could have imagined beforehand. But that's why I keep coming back. Thanks for letting me share.
Hey, thank you, Matt. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today and sharing. Hi, Mama Bear. Come on in.
Hello, fellows. Mama Bear, still an alcoholic. Yeah, character defects. I didn't know what my character defects are. Um, that was just this year. But when I went into did the fourth step, wrote these things down, and I had a resentment to my main resentment. Well, it started with my resentment with God. He allowed something to happen I didn't feel it was right, and I got angry. And and that's when the drinking started, right? And 30 years later, here I am. So I didn't know what my resentment was, but looking back in my past, I was able to find out what that was. Anyway, one of the things I think my character defects is that I'm never on time. I'm always early, and that could be a problem for some people. And so I'm learning to be on time. So um, I'm sure, yeah, if other people will tell me what my character defects are, I'm open for hearing because I like to know what they are. Other than that, I keep myself at check, but I'm not perfect. So if there is something wrong with me, please let me know. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Great. Thank you, Mama Bear. And thanks for sharing with us. Does anybody else have any comments about defects of character? You've identified them when you took inventory on your fourth step. And then now are you willing to let God remove those for you? Here, come on in and share with us, Jody. Whoops, there we go. Yeah.
Alcoholic. And yeah, as I was saying at the beginning of the meeting, I just finished my step 4 and 5. And for myself, I have no issues listing my character defects. I think a lot of that has to do with being in therapy so long and working on myself. What I found really challenging was hearing my sponsor read my character defects back to me, because it was different hearing someone else I guess say them back to me, because when I was doing my resentments, I didn't realize she was taking notes on everything. So that was really hard to come to terms with. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not as comfortable with my defects as I thought I was, if it got me that tense and anxious hearing someone else say them. So thanks for letting me share.
Great. Thank you. Glad you're having an experience. We do the work and trust the process, and the results are amazing. You're on the right path. Welcome, welcome. Anybody else want to share about willingness and the actions you can take to demonstrate that willingness to be relieved of these defects? Come on in, Sheila.
Hi, everybody. Sheila, alcoholic. What a great meeting and what a great conversation. I just love hearing this part of the big book again. I'm reminded that I have my notes from this step buried somewhere and how long it's been since I've looked at it. And I'm recognizing two things. I've come a long ways, and also that there's a long ways to go. It's time for me to dig these back out, and also I'm reminded that this is progress, not perfection. So although I've made a lot of good steps becoming the better person that I'm supposed to be, it doesn't happen overnight. And so with that, I'll keep coming back.
Great. Thank you, Sheila. We're glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. White House Lindsay, come on in, Lindsay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lindsay, grateful recovering alcoholic. I've gotten good at identifying the character defects in step 4. And I find that I still get kind of trapped in there's one particular, trying not to be affected by people, places, and things. I tend to be very reactive still and go from 0 to 100. And it's like, but what the difference is that I'm catching myself as it's happening. I'm not just letting it go on. So I mean, I do agree that it's a thing of practice. You got to get good at it and really realize when it's happening and figure out what the triggers are and why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. It's a little frustrating of a process when you're going through it, but am I willing to have it removed? Absolutely. Thanks for letting me share.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. So, okay, willingness, the indispensable willingness. If we're ready to let God remove these, we're going to get into step 7. And I want you to really pay attention to the 7-step prayer and how closely this matches the 3rd-step prayer. It is very similar. Again, this is the action part of the 3rd-step decision. This humility is we demonstrate through action that we are willing, and we do actually carry out what we said when we made the decision in the 3rd step. You'll see what I mean. So we're willing to let God take away our defects, and here we go with step 7, next paragraph. When ready, meaning when willing, ready and willing means the same thing. We say something like this: my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. So now let's just stop right there. And if we go to page 63, and the 3rd-step prayer in the middle of that page 63 says, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. And that sounds a lot like, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. Okay. And so then the next line at page 76 of the 7-step prayer says, I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. So remove from me every defect of character. Again, we refer back to the 3rd step, and it says to relieve me of the bondage of self. That's one defect of character, that I may better do thy will. And it says, take away my difficulties, that 3rd step prayer, that I may better do thy will. And so that sounds an awful lot like, God, I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. See, it's the same thing. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. So this is where, Alyssa, come on in and share with us. Yeah, let's hear what your comments are on this. I love it.
Thank you, Clyde. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. And you're so right, because this prayer is there, and this isn't the first time we see this, right? Bill, when he was writing the book, had a way of saying the same thing over and over again in different ways, right? So that it would click. And Clyde, you broke that down perfectly. I'm like, yes, that's there. Yes, that's, and it's simple. That's when, I was just willing, right? 6 and 7, 6 is the willingness. 7 is I'm saying the prayer. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. If you're doing anything else, you're not following the directions. And I'm not saying that to, force my will. It's right here. It's right here. So I'm willing, and then I asked. Does that mean because I asked, it's going to happen when I ask? No. Aaron, John, I'm talking. I'll be with you in just a moment. And I'm praying that he now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to God and my fellows. So my higher power is going to ultimately determine what is standing in the way of my usefulness to him and my fellows, if I ask him, right? So I can go with a specific character defect, but that's my request. He may say, well, Alyssa, we're going to bring that perfectionism down back to the solid organization skill that I intended you to have, right? But I'm not going to remove it. I'm not going to remove it completely, because it is an asset that has been overinflated, and that's where the character defect comes in, right? So those are two huge revealing things for me when they were revealed, is that there is so much similar, basically just different words. But I'm asking the same thing. And then that just because I'm asking, guess what? God doesn't move on my snapped fingers. It's on his time, not mine. And I'm willing to be completely honest and open-minded. Without the who, the how is not effective. I'll keep coming back. Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you, Elissa. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, it says these defects of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. That sounds a lot like in the third step about victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. It's the same thing. See, it's just a repeat. And where we cooperate, we have to cooperate with God, with the willingness and the action. We can't just snap our fingers and abracadabra. God does it for us. And so we're always thinking to ourselves, okay, what is God's will here? We're striving for that fifth column, those assets in the fifth column of our inventory, that God will remove the column 4 defects and replace it with the assets. So always looking for opportunities to help, bear witness to those I would help, and be useful to you and my fellows, God. What is God's will for me? So that's it for step 7. So that's 6 and 7, willingness and humility. And by the way, humility, that's the question. If I'm truly being humble, have I quit playing God? If I decide to hang on to something, then that means I am still holding on to, I'm still trying to play God. I need to completely surrender, good and bad, completely offer myself to him. He's the director. I'm sincere, utterly abandon myself to him. I can't, there is no, half and half or 90-10 or 80-20. It's all in on God. That's the humility that's required, that level. So, okay, we completed step 6 and 7 now. And we do this, by the way, after that 1-hour review of our 5th step that we did. Then we do step 6 and 7, and now we jump right into 8 and 9. Okay. So if there's any more comments about step 6 and 7, by all means, we can talk about them. Otherwise, we'll just continue with the directions in the big book. Okay, so we completed step 7. So now, third paragraph, page 76. We need more action. So those were action steps. Now we need more, without which we find that faith without works is dead. So let's look at steps 8 and 9. Do you see that? Cousin Jonathan just pointed this out to me recently, that those 2 steps are a package deal. Do you see the way Bill wrote that? Because the other steps talk about, one step at a time. This is steps 8 and 9. So it is a package deal. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. So there's the list, okay? So when we did our inventory, we put down our resentments, our fears, and our harmful conduct, harms done, including sex. And so on those lists, between those 3, we've identified pretty much everybody that we owe an amends to, that we've harmed. And there might be a name or 2 that you can add, but generally speaking, you're done. You made your list. And it says, we subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. That was step 4. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. That's the definition of an amends, to repair damage that we did in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Again, Bill's repeating, like up above, if we weren't willing to have let God remove our defects of character, we pray and ask God to help us be willing. Here, it tells us if we haven't the will to go make these amends, it says we ask until it comes. So ask meaning ask God, pray. We're asking God. And it says, remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. So this is where we're looking at this list of people that we've harmed by turning to our inventory and checking that out. We made this list. And are we willing to go make amends now to these people? Yes or no? Come on in, Elissa, and share with us.
Thank you, Clyde. Okay, so I heard a lot in there. Yes, you may. Please don't interrupt me again while I'm talking, okay? Thank you. So faith without works, let's look at steps 8 and 9. So we have a list of all persons we had harmed, and you explained that very well. We take those, especially our harmful conduct, they should go right into our 8th step list. Not all the resentments move over and not all the fears move over, but 100% of our harmful conduct people should be on our 8th step list. And Clyde pointed out, there may be some ones that we missed, like names. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't do your 4-step properly, because you've probably already gotten a clear picture of what's blocking you from the sunlight of the spirit in that 4th column. So it's simply just adding them to your 8-step list. And that word willing comes up again, and I'm willing to make amends. But then it tells me at the bottom of this paragraph, if I haven't the will to do it, I ask until it comes. It doesn't say that, oh, this way of life isn't for you, go back to the beginning. It says I pray for the willingness until it comes. The only way this won't work is if I walk away from the directions. I either I come with the willingness or I'm asking it till it comes. And out of my experience, it's always come. And then reminding us that we agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. But this part right here, we attempt to sweep away the debris which have accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. Well, what are those debris? My character defects. So now that I've identified them, 6, I was willing, 7, I said the prayer. So when I get to 8 and 9, God's already strengthening those assets so that I can do this. So if I followed the directions in order up until this point, that I'm not so afraid of sweeping away the debris, because I'm no longer moving in that selfishness. I'm moving in that unselfishness, I'm moving in tolerance instead of intolerance. So that's never popped out to me before it did when you were just reading it. I attempt to sweep away the debris. The debris are my character defects that I was holding on to, that were really blocking me from the sunlight of the spirit. And they were blocking me from healthy relationships with other people in this world. So there is a lot there in that one paragraph. That's a theme throughout this book. Awesome. Thank you for letting me share, and thank you, Clyde, for taking the.
Yeah, thank you, Elissa, for sharing with us. Hey, Matt, come on in, my friend.
Hey, Clyde. And yeah, I'm still Matt. I'm still an alcoholic. And thank you, everybody, for expanding on this, because I just want to echo that. Like, there's so much I needed to hear, especially that last sentence of that paragraph. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. And that first word is so important for me. Remember. I've got a really crappy memory, right? Especially when it comes to my relationship with alcohol. Stuff that happened in my early, like there are many reasons that my memory is not as good as it once was, or at least I don't think it was. I have a hard time remembering, but I feel like I need to tattoo that, or hold it in front of my face all the time, right? Remember it was agreed at the beginning. You already agreed to this, Matt, to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol, right? So that is anytime that I'm feeling a lack of willingness, or think, oh, this one action, this step is really inconvenient, or there's so many other good things that I need to be doing with my time, right? That is me getting back into my own self-will and not allowing God to be my director. Because if that's on my heart, then it's probably because God is prompting me to take that action. And I said I was willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. And come on in, Elissa. What do you think of this?
Well, Matt said something that made me, he read that last line again. Remember, it was agreed. So if I agree to do something, like that's my, that's, if I don't follow through with it, am I being honest? Is my integrity being, there's got to be another asset word that it pairs up with, right? I agreed. So if I'm reading this and I'm taking heed of this, right? Remember, it was agreed at the beginning, we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. I just asked God, I was willing to let him remove the defects that were blocking me from doing the next right thing in life up to this point. And so I was willing, I identified, I was willing, I asked. And so now I read this, and if I look at that and I'm like, yes, I did agree to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. I'm moving around in that asset because I want to live an honest way of life today. I made that commitment, right? And so isn't God already strengthening my assets from that prayer I just said in 7? Do you think that's what he's doing, Clyde? I'm asking a question for like
I think so.
feedback, but that's what was just revealed to me, is that as a result of the work I've done up to this point, I'm more likely to continue the suggestions because I've asked him to strengthen my assets, and keeping my commitments and being honest are assets. So that's pretty cool. Thank you guys for being here and helping that get revealed to me today.
Yeah, thank you. That's a excellent catch there, Elissa, about agreeing, being honesty. We agreed, and Matt, thank you for bringing that up and starting this whole conversation. When it says, if you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, and we agreed that we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol, and if we're going to be honest and sincere and quit playing God, we're going to make these amends, because that's what's indicated next. We're going to be honest. So, okay, come on in and share with us, Sid. What do you think?
Hello, hello everybody. I'm actually working right now, but I don't really have much to say. It's just been a while since I been on these meetings, so I'm just, I just want to express my gratitude. I'm just very grateful to just be here today, to listen and learn, and to know that this is a journey that I'm not on alone. I have my good days and my bad days. It's getting to the point now where the good days do outweigh the bad days. But
So Sid, yeah, we're talking about steps 8 and 9 now. So
okay.
yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for letting me share.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We're glad you're here, but this is a very topic-oriented meeting. So we're on step 8 and 9. Thanks for being here and joining us. We appreciate it. And stick around after the thing. We'll have some fellowship after the study. Okay, so if there are no other comments, we can continue with the next paragraph. Where we're at is we just took step 6 and 7. Now we're learning about M8. We took step 8 because we've got our list that we made. And now we're learning we're following the instructions, the directions for making amends, doing the 9th step. Bill's going to tell us all about it now. So the next paragraph reads at the bottom of page 76, probably there are still some misgivings. It says, as we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. It says, let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. It says we might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order. So that's why we're making these amends. We want to put our lives in order. But this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's our real purpose. That's why we're making these amends now. It is seldom wise. Oops. Yeah, come on in and share with us, Elissa.
Thank you, Clyde. That last part you read, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So, because you cross-referenced the third and the seventh step prayer, but didn't I do that when I said the third and the seventh step prayer? So it's telling me what my real purpose is, right? And how I got here and how I can continue to grow in this place is by using the steps that were just shown to me, right? The direction and the guidance of each step. Because if you'll probably do a better job of breaking it down, Clyde, when you see it. But to me, those two prayers and the work in between help me get to that real purpose. And that's to fit myself to be of maximum service, right? Because it grants me, I'm asking him to grant me strength as I go out from here to do his bidding. And then in the third step prayer, take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. That's where I catch it in those two prayers, where I can fit myself to be of max. I can move in my real purpose that God created me to be. Whew, that's a promise. All right, I'm pumped. I'm gonna mute myself.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So again, in the third step prayer, it's those I would help. This is again ties in with this, our purpose being maximum service to God and the people about us. That's why we're asking him to remove from us, take away our difficulties so he can, those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. And then in the seventh step prayer, we've asked him to remove our defects of character so that are standing in the way of our usefulness to you and my fellows, just like it says here. Ourselves to be of maximum service to God and people about us, our fellows. So 3-7, step 3 prayer, step 7 prayer, and the action associated with it is manifesting itself here by doing these steps 8 and 9 and making these amends is going to fit us to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So come on in, Mama Bear. Can you share with us now?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Mama Bear still an alcoholic. I'm going to personalize this sentence. My real purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service to my God and to the people around me. And that's exactly why I am here. I mean, I tried to help people when I was drunk. Forget about it. I was a mess. Nobody wants to be around a drunk. But this is why I'm here. Now I'm sober, and now I could be of real service. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Yeah, thank you, Mama Bear, for sharing with us. We're glad you're here. So, yeah, it says, diffident means like modest or shy. And, it talks about misgivings and being diffident. And it's like, I'm not so sure about, going to these people and announcing that, hey, I'm living the new spiritual life and I have faith in God and, check me out, I'm Mr. Spiritual. And Bill's telling us we don't need to do that. we're just trying to put our lives in order. We want to fit ourselves to be of maximum service. And so it says, he gives us the directions here. If we continue, he says, it's seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we've gone religious. So we don't want to make a big religious presentation here. It says in the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. It says, why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? It says, we may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. So here's the key here. He says, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. So these are the do's of how to do this. It says sincere desire. We've heard that word before, sincere, to set right the wrong. So there's two ways to set right the wrong. There's, the meeting and the discussion portion of it, and then the action portion of it too. It says he's going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. So he wants to see we live it out. We make living amends. So where we used to be in column 4, living on our defects, causing damage, we're now in the assets of column 5 and doing the right thing. We're being honest. We're being calm and at ease. We're relaxed and take it easy. We're not angry and resentful. We're loving and kind. We're showing patience and tolerance and kindness and love. The people we're going to make amends to, we're going to repair these relationships that we've damaged as a result of our self-will. And we're going to do the right thing for the right reason. And so that's what it's not a big discussion about, hey, now I found God and I've been reborn and I'm a new person. We need to actually take action and demonstrate that we're going to repair the relationship and make right the harm. And Bill's going to give us, the specific 1, 2, 3 of an amends a little further on in these instructions of making amends. Basically, it's 3 parts. It's, 1 is, hey, I did you wrong. Number 2 is, please forgive me. And number 3 is, what do I need to do to make things right? Or here's what I'm planning on doing to set matters straight. It's really that simple. So we don't go in there and announce, hey, sorry about that. I'm religious now. I'm a spiritual guy and everything's cool. That doesn't work. So does anybody have any comments on that paragraph? I mean, the real keys are that our purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. And the other is, we need to show that we're a sincere desire to set right the wrong. We're doing this sincerely. And we're going to do a demonstration of goodwill. So if we owe money, we're going to actually give him money or give him a check. And if we, lied to them, we're going to tell them the truth. Whatever we did to harm them, we're going to make it right. We're going to demonstrate through action. Not just talk about it, not give lip service. We're going to do it. Okay. So we'll continue here. It says, we don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. It says, when it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. So if they want to know, hey, man, you're like a completely different person. What are you, worshiping God now? Are you some religious person? And we tell them with conviction, yes, I do have faith. I do have a higher power. That's a big part of my recovery here, my plan. That's where I'm getting my guidance to do this process, follow these instructions, and take action to repair our relationship here. My higher power wants me to do this. That's why I'm here. So we can announce that with tact and common sense. You share it however your higher power wants it to come out, it'll come out. Just be sincere and speak from the heart. Let them know what's up. Now, oh, I love this. Next instruction. Here's a question. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. Whoops, hold on here.
Oops, sorry about that.
There, we got it. Okay. Mama Bear, there. Okay. Okay, so the question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. So there are people that we've harmed, some of us, that we really have a grudge against, and they've harmed us too. And it could be very much so that they did initiate the whole thing and did do us more harm, but nevertheless, we did harm them and act inappropriately, and we do owe them an amends. There are some, pretty deep-seated resentments and harmful conduct that we've done that we need to make amends for, that we do not want to do. It may be, and let's keep reading, he has done us more harm than we have done him. And though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. So this is one of these people that we are just so miffed at, we just can't even imagine making amends to them because we just can't stand them. But we know we're supposed to. That's our higher power telling us, giving us that nudge, telling us we need to do this. So here's what Bill says. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. That's what we do. It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. Wow, who would have thought that this is more beneficial than going to the people that we owe amends to, that were, kind of middle of the road, so. Somebody that we really have a deep-seated anger with and resentment, that's going to give us the most benefit. Wow, who would have thought? Come on in, Elissa.
Thank you, Clyde. And as you were explaining this, right, what came to my mind is if my drain keeps clogging, right? Here's an analogy. Because this is how my higher power works. He gives me these analogies with the visuals. But it makes sense, right, to go to the deep-seated ones first, because those character defects that are most harmful to me and others are probably the ones that come out in those situations, right? The ones where I have the deep-seated. So I want to get to the root of it. So if I get to the clog in my drain, instead of just, oh, let me just make sure there's nothing on top here, I'll just clean off the top, right? It's going to keep coming back. The water isn't going to drain. I need to get down to the root, right? I need to get the uckies out first, because then everything else after that, well, it runs pretty smoothly. That was my experience. Thank you, God, for that analogy.
Wow, that's brilliant, Alyssa. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love the clog and the drain. If we just, some of the smaller amends we make, we're just picking a little bit of hair off the top of the clog, but the clog's still there. The water's still backed up into the sink. And it makes sense to get the big clog out of there first so that all the little stuff can just wash away. That's amazing. Very good analogy. Thank you for sharing that. And that's what Bill tells us, that that's more beneficial for us. And that's probably exactly why, that clog analogy. And here's what we do. And again, we pray to God. We ask our higher power to give us this ability to go to him, to go to the person we owe the amends to, in a helpful and forgiving spirit. We're going to need God's help with this one. Confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. So God will help us do that. That's the amazing thing. Wow. So don't be afraid to make amends to people that, are not afraid. Don't be so mad at them that you won't do it because your clog, you want to get that clog out of there, and God will help you do it. All right. So let's go ahead and continue then. And this is important. Boy, is this important. It takes a little restraint, some self-control. Listen to this. Under no condition. Again, these are the directions for making our 9th step amends. Couldn't be any easier, could it? Bill gives us all these different concepts and instructions and examples. This is just so good. So this is a do not. You know, we're getting the do's and don'ts. This is a don't. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Now, we're going to read about this again and again in the book about argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. We've ceased fighting anything or anyone. It shows up elsewhere in the book too. So this is important. We do not criticize such a person or argue. Okay. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. It says we are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. So we're not there to point out what his faults are, what he did, not an issue at all. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. Come on in, Matt.
Hey, I'm still Matt. I'm still an alcoholic, and this is how I know that I had divine assistance when going through this program. Because as I'm reading these instructions and remembering my experience of taking these steps, I am not good at having a calm, frank, and open manner when I'm placed in an uncomfortable position like this. I think back to when I was making my amends my first time through this program, and that's how it went because I was prayed up. I had a sponsor, who prepared me for that, going, okay, this person, if they are, still sick, is gonna do and say whatever they can to get under your skin, and your job is to be calm, frank, and open, and leave the results up to God, right? I think about evaluations that I've had, when people criticize me and give me, feedback that is unfair, right? And if I'm not in a fit spiritual condition, I can fly off the handle. But if I approach it with this manner, the result is so much better. And saying, thank you so much for offering me that feedback. I love you, even though I think you're wrong. But I don't actually say that last part out loud. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, what's really coming to mind for me is that for the first 4th step prayer is the otherwise known as the sick man's prayer. It tells us that we ask God to help us show them, this is the person we're mad at because they've done something to harm us. We ask God through prayer to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. And again, that's exactly what we're talking about here, about being calm, frank, and open. And then it says, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done. We avoid retaliation or argument. So there's that 4th step prayer that we say before we go make this amends to this person. Come on in, Elissa.
Thank you, Clyde. I had to step back to help Lizzie, so I left my book in the front of the house. So you help me with this? Because I see the other steps, right, showing up in this direction. So can we read it sentence by sentence together and break it down?
Yes. So are we this paragraph, under no condition do we criticize?
Yeah.
So, okay, under no condition do we criticize such a person or
Okay.
argue.
Okay. So we quit playing God, right? So step 3 is going to help me with that.
Mhm.
Identifying that selfishness is a character defect in 4. And then I'm willing to let God remove it, and I ask him to remove it. So step 3 and 4 through 7 show up for me there in that sentence. Am I missing a step in that sentence?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then it says simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past.
So we set that we're setting our pure intentions, right, of what we're there to do is, and then it's going to tell us we are there to sweep off our side of the street. Didn't
Yeah,
it just talk to us about in the previous page, sweep away the debris which have accumulated out of self?
yep, yep.
So 4 through 9 or 4 through 7 are there again. We're in the process of 9. So that's where those steps all show up in that sentence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it says, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Never trying to tell him what he should do. So we quit playing God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His faults are not discussed. So we're talking about our inventory here. We're not taking his inventory.
Mm-hmm.
It says we stick to our own. And
Step 4.
yes, that's step 4. And if our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result.
And I can get to calm, frank, and open by applying 4 through 7 in
7.
order.
Yes.
It happens automatically. That's a promise that's about to come up. But in this 2 sentences, it's talking about burning up energy foolishly, right? It told us about that in step 3. It's talking about it here, and then it'll talk about it again on page 88 is the next spot. But that's really cool that all of those steps can be found in that amends direction paragraph. That's what I just picked up. So thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Elissa. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your ability to spot the steps as they're outlined in the book. It's easy to just read. That's why this is called a big book study. By having Elissa walk us through these things, you know, and really getting into detail, we can understand the deeper meaning behind it and what's going on here. Instead of just reading words on a page, we understand the experience and why we're having the experience and what these different things mean and how they show up. So very good. Let's go ahead and continue. This is the beautiful, but check this out. Listen to this, page 78. It says in 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens 90% of the time. This is amazing. It says sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Now, do you think that this would happen if we went in there and criticized him and we were trying to sweep the debris off of our side of the street and his side of the street, and we weren't calm and frank and open? Do you think this would happen? I don't think so. So we're going to follow the directions. And so he'll admit his own faults. Okay, Elissa, come on in.
That sounds like a promise to me. That's all I got to say on that one. But that sounds like a promise to me.
It is. It is. And it says, rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. It says, our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. Now, these are people that are like hardcore. We just couldn't stand these people. And 90% of the time, all these great things are happening because We didn't discuss their faults. We were calm, frank, and open, and just followed these simple directions with God's help, I might add. Come on in, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to echo that a big part of this is for me why it's so important to have a sponsor and to stick closely to your sponsor as you're going through, at least at first, through the amends process. Because they're going to let you know when you're ready to tackle these more difficult, when you're ready to really dig down into that drain and pull up that really greasy, I won't get too into the nitty gritty of it, but like, because a lot of it has to do with how I approach that person. Because automatically somebody's guard, if I have harmed them, when I have harmed somebody, and I approach them and they don't know that, hey, I'm making an amends, like my name's Earl is like the popular understanding of making amends with the ninth step, right? If they don't know that, their guard is going to be up. So the best thing I can do is not approach them with my defenses up, with my guard up. And that by modeling vulnerability, my experience with this, it totally accords with this, that it's amazing how receptive people are when you approach them in the right way. Thanks.
That's exactly what this is all about, approaching them in the right way. Calm, frank, and open, not discussing. We don't criticize or argue. We don't discuss their faults. And it's amazing the response we'll get. Bill is a promise, like Elissa said. Come on in, Elissa.
Thank you, Clyde. And what I was, there's a phrase, don't leave before the miracle happens. And that's not the miracle that they're talking about right here. They're talking about step 10, that phrase. But all those miracles, sometimes the person, 9 times out of 10, like those things are miracles. But then it made me cross-reference to page 55. For faith and a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. So that's back in we agnostics, right? So if I've turned my will and my life over the care of God, step 3, I've followed the directions up to this point. Isn't that a promise on 55 that's coming through right now if I followed the directions up into this point? The miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives. Well, if I'm coming and I'm cleaning up my side of the street and I'm not talking about that other person, that's a miraculous demonstration of my higher power working in my life. Is it not? I don't know. That's where my higher power is taking me with that. So that was just revealed to me. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elissa. It's a miraculous demonstration of our higher power working in our life and the other person we're making the amends to. Everyone. It's restored relationships. That's what my higher power wants me to have: good, healthy, meaningful, long-lasting relationships with other people. So, wow, what a great discussion, and the way these concepts are showing up for us and throughout the steps and throughout the directions. So I think this will be a good place to take a break, and then we'll pick it up again next week. And we're going to learn more examples about owing money. These are amends that people, financial amends, and then things that might involve criminal offenses and other people being involved, and wrongdoing, lying, cheating, etc. Different examples. So we're going to get into detail. Bill does such a great job of giving us all these different examples and principles that apply, and how to do this amends process. This is great. So, okay, let me go ahead. Thank you so much for being here and sharing, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the script here, and I want to thank everyone for coming to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book Study. We meet every Sunday at 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. Eastern in this room. And this podcast will be available by this Friday. You can join us on Telegram for updates. So here's what it says on Big Book page 164. So last page in the chapter A Vision for You. And it says, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. How do we get our house in order? Well, one way is take these steps and do this 9-step amends, okay? But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. That sounds like step 1 through 3. Admit your faults to him and your fellows. So there's steps 4 and 5. Clear away the wreckage of your past. That's steps 6, 7, 8, and 9. Give freely of what you find and join us. That's step 12. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Wow. So we're going to go ahead and close the meeting now with the Lord's Prayer. You guys can unmute yourselves if you'd like to join us. You're welcome. Who brought us together for this big book study this afternoon?
Our Father,
who art in heaven,
heaven,
be thy name.
all is his name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank
right.
you, everyone, for the meeting. Have a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.